students in business school all the time to do, to make money. There are two ways of making money. The first is to engage in what one might term wealth creation. That is to make good or do good. The second is to engage in wealth.
Sorry. So Colin Mayer was talking about what they teach in business school about the purpose of corporation, which is to maximize profit. He was saying that no, that there's something wrong about that. It cannot be the purpose of the corporation. And so I'm using that because first I showed you a picture of a family, parents being leaders of that family. And this professor in Oxford talking about the purpose of a corporation being led by leaders, business leaders, who apparently were responsible for a great financial crisis. It's not just a crisis in the United States, but it affected the whole world, right? In fact, the article in front of you is one of the what caused, and he was talking about first. Those who are supposed to be watching the corporations were the cause of the decline of corporations. Here, you're just familiar with Enron in the US, but it has a European counterpart. It's called Parmalat. It's a business in Italy owned by a family. It's almost the same. But here, there was a problem with leadership. This article was tagged it as managerial hubris, right? That the attachment of the owners of the corporation to the corporation itself, right, led to their developing some ways in order to hide their losses, for example, in the corporation, right? So all these examples are, these examples lead us to think, what are corporations for? Who are the people leading those corporations, right? And what is the problem, right? So the first part is we're going to talk about vocation and mission, right? This is important, and I'm going to tell you why. As a person, a key to your joy, to your success actually, is to discover your, what I call your manufacturer's manual, right? You did not create yourself. You did not go and, you did not go and manufactured yourself, so to speak. Yeah? There's something that in you that is given to you, right? And so you have to discover that. For you to be able to function very well, it's good for you to discover what you're made of, right? And to discover what those things that you have and what they are useful for, right? Your talents, your skills, the people around you, right? The opportunities that you have, right? All of those, if you put them together, tell something about yourself, right? Actually, I'm talking about your calling, your vocation. And sometimes when people hear about the word vocation, they're just thinking about becoming a priest or a nun or something else. Well, vocation actually comes from the Latin vocare, to call, right? You are called for something, you answer that call, and when you live according to that call, right, you live it's actually I'm distracted with thinking about the biological analogy about this, right, which I'm going to show you, right? So first, you're called. That's your vocation. So you have a personal vocation. If you want, you can discover that. That's not the purpose of my talk. You can go to your spiritual director for that. But you have what you call a professional vocation. What is the role that you have in society? You look at your manufacturer's manual and discover what is that role that you have to perform in society. For example, not everyone has to be a lawyer. Not everyone has to be a doctor. Not everyone has to be a teacher. There has to be people who work, do some manual labor. There's nothing wrong about that. That's a work that is good if it's well done. In fact, here in the Netherlands, we have this, there's a guy, when we were preparing for this, someone knock on my door, and he's asking if he can, someone can fix uh, there's something wrong with the electrical connection in my room. And that guy was telling me that, the handyman here, he earns a lot. In fact, a handyman can have a BMW, right? And can have a vacation somewhere. And so it is a dignified work. Right? In the Philippines, when you say it's handyman, si kuya dyan, no? So, and sometimes you're supposed to pay them minimum wage at least, right? So, it's good that there's a role that we have to play in society, and we have to look at those roles in an equal way, right? They contribute to the betterment of society. Imagine if everyone is a mayor, everyone's president, everyone, there is gonna be chaos, right? And so it's good for you to discover that, what your calling is, your professional calling, your professional vocation. And then you will understand better your mission, what you're sent for. Mission, from mittere, to send, right, is connected, very much connected to your vocation. Otherwise, there's something wrong. You will feel so restless that seems to be something wrong. You're called for something, but you're doing something else. Understand? So in biology, we call this structure and function. There's one line of thought which says that the structure of the part of the body determines its function. For example, the shape of the heart. Like, look, the ventricle has the one at the base is bigger. It's supposed to pump blood to all the parts of the body, right? And so the structure is big, right? And it is muscular, so it can pump. It has the energy that is necessary to be able to pump water to all the parts of the body. And here, this particular thought says that the structure determines the function. But another one is the structure depends on its function. So this is the function, and then the structure will be made accordingly, right? So this is the structure and function. This is a chicken and egg thing in biology. But what I'm trying to, I'm presenting them before you because they are interconnected. Your vocation, your professional vocation, is very much connected to your mission, what you are called for to do, right? In corporate governance, I showed you at the start of this session the scandals in the US, mainly in Enron in 2001, 2002, and the global financial crisis in 2007, 2008. The former dean of the Yale Business School, arguably the best business school in Europe or in the world. Morris will argue with that because he's from Rotman. And he said, beyond the usual explanations of the current financial crisis, he wrote this in a book which I'm reading now. He said, there's abundant evidence to suggest that many firms have lost their sense of mission and purpose in society. What are corporations for? The moment you lose your sense of mission, your sense of purpose, what you are called to do, and what is your function in society, then there will be chaos, not just in your personal life, but in the society as a whole, as we have seen in corporate governance. In fact, the question is, what is your vocation? What are you called for, right? In corporate governance, this is connected to the purpose of the corporation. Actually, so they put, when you say in corporate governance, you talk about the purpose of the corporation, you're talking about the mission of the corporation in society, for example. Well, much of the problem arose, they say, right, in corporate governance studies, in the 1970s, when Milton Friedman is part of the Chicago think tank. and he's a professor in Chicago. And he said that the social responsibility of businesses increase its profits. In fact, he had a very big statement that the only purpose of business is to increase profits, as long as it stays within the rules of the game, he said. He qualified that, right? And many people, studies have shown that the scandals in the business world can be rooted to the statement of Friedman, right? In fact, later on, Colin Mayer, the person I presented to you at the start of this presentation, he said that no, he gave the opposite stand. He said the purpose of business is to produce profitable solutions to the problems of people and planet, and in the process, it produces profit. He said it profit cannot be the sole purpose of business, right? And so these are actually the different debates that we have in corporate governance. Are we going to follow the shareholder model or the stakeholder model? I will not discuss that with you. But what I'm trying to tell you here is that it is important, even in business, especially if you'll be leading a business, for example, in the future, or leading your own foundation like Universitas, or you're leading your own family, it's good for you to understand the purpose of that business, the purpose of that organization, the purpose of even a school assignment, right? If you're a group working on a paper, and then you will be able to do everything according to it, around it, right? So if you don't answer those things, both at the personal level and at the group level, it's like you are like a car that is running very fast, but at the wrong direction. I got that from St. Augustine, actually. He said, you're running very fast, but at the wrong direction. It's like you are supposed to go to Baguio, right? You're going north, and you're driving 200 kilometers per hour, but you're going to Lipa, right? So no matter how fast you drive, you will never reach Baguio because you're going at the wrong direction. It's not running very fast, right? It's working towards your goal. Sometimes you have to walk slowly. Sometimes because as long as you keep, you keep your sight fixed in your goal. You understand? So remember this quote when in one of the sessions that we had from Harvard Business School. Oh, we've been having quotations from top business schools, huh? Yes, Harvard, Oxford. So in Harvard, so this professor was actually saying the difference between success and failure is not skill, technique, credentials, networking, or even experience, right? And many people always tell you that. You have to have a lot of credentials, networking, all of these connections and everything, and even experience. But he said, no, it's clarity about who you are. It's not about vocation, your professional calling that I mentioned at the start. This self-knowledge is often the critical factor enabling leaders to do their work, meet their responsibilities, and live rewarding and useful lives. That's why I told you that unless that professional calling is very clear with you, you might be running very fast, but at the wrong direction, right? And so, why is this important? Because the moment you discover that, it is like you discover the golden key. There's a novel about that, the golden key that opens any door, right? Like this golden key made by MG. Right? It is the key to find the meaning of your life, actually, right? So the meaning of your life is not producing profit or having 100 people attending back to the basics, right? So it provides the reason for your waking up in the morning, right? For your exercising, for your walking, for your cleaning the house, for your brushing your teeth, for your I don't know whatever it is that you're doing, right? So and it helps you at the same time find joy in the midst of challenges, difficulties, and apparent failures. That's why I always put apparent before failure, because failures for me are not permanent. They're just there, in fact, to make us even stronger, right? I don't understand the cloud there on the top of the heads of these people. What does it mean? uh, uh, our media officer put it. Surprise is something negative, right? So to find joy in the midst of the cloud, right? The only cloud I know is a cloud on the title of a property. so, so okay, that's why then you understand how it means to persevere, to continue moving on in spite of difficulties. I always That's why I like going to a mountain hike, right? Because when you're going mountain hike, it's not easy. You don't have the comforts of your home, the comforts of the food that you like to eat, and you're perspiring and you have to go up, and the road is difficult. But the moment you reach the top, then you cannot buy the reward and the pleasure of achieving something great, of being there in the midst of you know a beautiful scene, for example, being with your friends, right? That's why you have this Latin aspiration per aspirad astra, through perspiration to the stars, no? Through difficulties to success, right? That is the first part. So it's important for you to discover your vocation, your professional vocation, your personal vocation. Discuss that with your spiritual director. But then you will understand better your mission in life. But whatever that mission may be, or whatever that calling may be, there's a common mission that we all have. It's called service. I thought I got this idea from Pope Francis, but because many times I write things, I discover things, then I reflect on them, and and then when it's time for me to give a talk or write, then I try to search, did I get this from somebody else? So last weekend I've been trying to look for a source for this, and I could not find one in the internet. So, or I must have invented it, right? So whatever be your calling, so your whatever be your professional vocation, there's a common vocation that we all have: to serve. You may be president of the Philippines, you may be the Pope, you may be the president of University of Asia and the Pacific, you may be a professor, teacher there in the classroom, you may be a father and mother. I didn't know that Jason already has 2, 4, 6, 7 kids. They're beautiful. I wanted to replace this with the photo of my friends, but there was no time. I have a friend who just had his seventh kid last month. He greeted me yesterday, Happy Father's Day. This he said, it's like I'm a father to him. I told him, oh, thank you, my son. So he has 7 kids now. So and the common vocation of all these people is service. You know that service comes from servus, slave, right? And that means that every time there is an election, we're gonna have elections, I think 2 years from now. I'm always amazed when those who are running for public positions, they say, mahal ko kayong lahat. Ako ang yung, what do they say? I'm your public servant. Public servant number 1, right? But they don't seem to mean what they're saying, right? In the Philippine Constitution, in Article 11, Section 1, public office is a public trust. Actually, when you're going to read all this, especially the last part, they're called to lead modest lives. So, well, I don't know why they put it there, but it is the measure upon which our constitutional framers wanted to measure the lives of our public leaders, right? Our public servants, right? That's why this one is from me, definitely. Please do not aspire to hold the position of service if you don't want to serve. Precisely, right? You want this, unless you are, have this terminological problem here. For example, in the Netherlands, when you say you're going to a coffee shop, actually it's a place where you can get drugs, right? Coffee shop. I still remember Anyway, a very funny story, but it's not part of the talk, right? So it's like a friend said he went to a coffee shop and he told the friend, "What did you order in the coffee shop?" I ordered coffee, and the guy, you know what the guy told him? "What? You ordered coffee in a coffee shop?" So I mean, it's so funny hearing that. So it's like this one. Uh, what you want to serve? You don't want to serve, and you're called to service. You understand? So, in fact, do not even aspire to be a parent if you don't understand what it means to serve. Otherwise, your relationship will break off when you're in difficult moments or when your child is sick and you want to do something else. Right? So this is important. Whatever leadership position that you may have, that is the common mission that we have: service. Okay, so let us go to the third part. This is the longest part because this came from the book, and MG derived this presentation from there. You know what I noticed all these years is a growing lack of commitment among young people. And I've been trying to um, analyze that. And I would like you to listen in a particular way to this one, right? Because you are all young people, I suppose, right? At least young at heart. Uh, it may be that a general lack of commitment among young people now is because they do not see role models of commitment. For example, many young people are afraid to commit, even to get married. You know, people in their 30s, for example, still not wanting to get married because they're not yet prepared. I remember talking talking to talking to well, there's a couple. Um, 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 Finally, after several years, the boyfriend proposed to the girl. The girl is almost 40 years old, right? I was almost 40 years old, and so and for one reason or another, they're not my friends. They were just introduced to me. For one reason or another, I met the couple, and then the lady was wearing the engagement ring, right? Because and I said, oh, he already proposed. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I'm I'm engaged. I want to tell her, yeah, you're 40 years old. You should, you understand. So, but we cannot blame we cannot blame people if the environment around them makes it very difficult for them to commit. Perhaps because they might think this marriage might fail. These people have been together for a long time and then they still broke up, or I don't know what, right? And so it's really we really have to help one another in this. We have to learn how to be committed. Committed is a beautiful word, and we have to show that among ourselves as leaders in the little commitments that we make, right? So it's like you have a position. I always tell the people in Universitas, the officers, you have to be responsible with the tasks that are before you, and don't expect us to push you to do them, right? You cannot be like high school officers. I like this example because in high school, one of the first things that you do, I don't know during your time, one of the first things that we do during my time in high school was to elect the officers, right? From the president to the sergeant at arms and to the escort and the muse. I'm always at the escort. No, I'm just joking. So and uh, but they actually don't do anything. The only one who does his work is a sergeant at arms, which is when the teacher goes out of the classroom, the sergeant at arms come here. You list down those who stood up, right? So list on the board those who stood up. So when the teacher arrives, he knew who stood up. No, so I always tell them, don't be like high school officers. They don't do anything. They get elected and nothing, right? So we have to learn how to commit ourselves and live up to those commitments, right? And not to be afraid to suffer in fulfilling the commitment, right? Because only when we lose the fear of suffering, then we discover the deeper joy of being a committed person, of having that sense of mission. You understand? So, for example, how many among young people now understand that to love someone is loving that person or being with that person up to the point of sacrifice? How many of them know about that, right? Well, this is a big topic. This is one of my favorite topics, but we don't have time for this. It is part of the book. Please read that. But we can focus on this part. Sometimes when media, for example, talks about love as mere sensual pleasure or feelings, then it is confused with real love, right? In such a way that when feelings are not there anymore, love is gone. But isn't it true that love goes deeper when feelings are not there and you still are with the person that you're supposed to say that you love? You can also apply that in your commitments, for example, at work. Or in your, for example, in the foundation, when you have, sometimes the things that you're doing, is really difficult. But you know that when you face that difficulty, that suffering, then you're able to overcome it. There's an inner fulfillment that no one can give to you unless you do it yourself, right? Unless you commit yourself, you persevere, right? So that's why we need role models in different aspects of our lives. At home, for example, parents are domestic leaders. They have to learn how to be good parents themselves. And that's why I promote those education for parents courses that they promote somewhere. They have them here also in Europe. They're called family enrichment, for example. Teachers, that teachers have to be moral leaders. And as a former teacher myself, and I intend to teach again after finishing my graduate studies on top of my work in a law firm and universitas. Universities will be there forever until I die. So, and why? Because we want to. I always tell the people in universitas, these are concrete way of doing service to our country. It is a thankless job, but several years from now, you will see the fruit of what you're doing in the lives, concrete lives of individuals, right? Instead of spending your time somewhere else in another thing, right? It is good that you do something for the others. This is a concrete way for you to help our country. Anyway, teachers, that are, think about the teachers you had in elementary or high school. Many times you don't really remember what they taught you, but you remember their lives. Remember, this teacher is like this, is like that. Their ways, their behavior, their antics, right? And that's why I always say that competence in one's field is not enough for a teacher, because students do not only study what they teach, but also learn from the example of their lives. Political leaders, they have to learn how to, not just go for money. I'm sorry, that's, sometimes I am afraid that some political leaders are making decisions based on the money that they get. So they're just thinking about themselves. How much will I get from this decision? But it's gonna sacrifice the entire country for something else. I cannot give a concrete example here. Friendships. We may have failed parents, we may have failed teachers, we may have failed politicians, but there's a saving factor: friendships. In fact, I'm thinking of offering an entire course on friendship in the future. This is a beautiful topic, but we can summarize it here. I consider a friend as one's other self. That a friend, you share a certain common life with your friend. That's the reason why you correct your friend when he's not doing the right thing, because it affects your common life, right? So that's why, how do you know that you're loving your friend? You want the best for him, you want the best for her, right? And of course, you know that the ultimate best for your friend is God. But before you reach that, it's good that you learn how to show that in many different ways. You know? Just last Friday, I was in a in an excursion with a friend. I invited him to this talk, but he was talking with somebody else now. In his city here in the Netherlands, we were competing with each other on who will finish his thesis first, right? And so it just so happened that we finished it on the same day. Well, we agreed to meet on Friday, uh, and he texted me. We were supposed to meet at 11. He said, "Oh, I'm just finishing some last minute things with my thesis." And I told him, "Take your time," because I was working on my footnotes. And then so when he arrived here, it's like I just have like a few more footnotes, but he spoke with somebody here when he arrived. So when he went to my room, I just posted the email to my professor. And then he brought me to his city. It's a very nice city, beautiful, quaint city, 15-minute drive from Maastricht. And he showed me where he passes, and we went to their mall, and we had lunch there, and we practically walked. It was very tiring, but it's a lot of fun because I was with a friend, right? And so true friendship is always geared towards the truth. That's why you tell your friend the truth, no matter how painful it may be, right? The good, you want the best for your friend. And beauty. Uh, uh, I'm not referring here to physical beauty, but metaphysical beauty, right? The beauty of a good life. Um, Actually, sometimes they say that your friendship ends when you start quarreling. No, for me, it's when actually the friendship is about to grow, right? About to develop, right? Um, I can talk more about that if you want in the question and answer. And this loyalty is translated, for example, to fidelity in marriage. That's why I recommend that those who want to marry someone, why don't you work on being best friends first? Well, we'll talk more about that if you're interested later. One of the things I learned in the US some years ago was a talk by Mr. Stenson. I'm sorry, this is not a direct quotation because I just heard it from him. It was a talk that he gave to high school students, and I was there. And he said that, how do you know that a kid is mature? Among the kids, right? Among the kids at home, first you start feeding the kid, right? And then he asked us, how if the kid starts eating by himself? Is he already mature? He said, not yet. He said, he becomes mature when he starts feeding the others, right? When he starts standing on his own feet, right? So that's not a direct quotation, right? So now, okay. So that's why look at these different role models, parents, teachers, political leaders, and when everything else fails, let us provide friends, or we become friends to our friends, real friends, so that whatever so that it fills in the lack of role models that we have in our society. Actually, that's what we provide in Universitas as well. We try to do things in very professional ways as much as we can, but what animates the entire foundation is the friendship that we build among ourselves. Okay, so these are our 3 key takeaways for today's talk. Our sense of mission, let me see, is connected to our vocation. So it is the key to finding the meaning of your life and finding joy in the midst of challenges, difficulties, and apparent failures that you may experience. That's why if there's something, unless you discover your vocation, your professional vocation, what is your proper role in society, then things will be unstable, right? So, but the moment you discover that, it helps you decide what you have to do in life, right? It also helps you face whatever difficulties that may come along the way, right? Now, among leaders, there are various callings, but there's one common mission, whatever that may be, it is to serve, right? And we need committed leaders. And for that, we need role models of commitment at home, our parents, in school, teachers, at work, our managers. In the church also, we need role models, right? As we have seen in the past decades, right? And society. But when everything else fails, at least we have to be role models to our friends by being good friends with them. Thank you.